when I'm down. Got my head in the clouds and my feet on the ground. I got big dreams, gonna make them true.
Yeah, we want to help make your big dreams come true here in the Genius Lab. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Genius Lab, where we help you realize your greatness. Toby here, and today we're going to talk about unresolved trauma triggers holiday drama. As you can tell by that comment, it's we're coming in on Christmas. It's just a few days away. It's been a while since I did a podcast, and it's so good to be back on. And sometimes life's distractions create different paths than I. Well, for me anyway, it's been an interesting road the last year and a half. But I've been able to put a few podcasts in during that time, but it's been kind of crazy, but things are settling down. And part of realizing our greatness is going through things that we don't always plan for. And if everything goes as planned, you're probably not shooting high enough. Somebody told me that once, and I'm like, okay. So anyway, let's talk about unresolved trauma, because one of the things that has happened since I just finished my NLP training, my certification training, I've been using NLP techniques for a long time, and I was certified in TRIP through a company called 220, and then I was certified in TRIP, which is a similar process, all based on NLP principles. And I finally decided, hell, I'm going to get my certification in NLP, get to the bottom of this. And it was a really, really positive experience. Excuse me. I got a scratchy throat today. A little iced tea will do the trick. So anyway, so I got my certification, and I've been expanding. Basically what it's done, it's taking the training that I already had and taking it to the next level. So if you are suffering from trauma, post-traumatic stress, if you have reactions to past events, the memories of past events, I hopefully can help you get through it. This is a process. I say that I when people ask me what you do, I say I remove the trauma without the drama, because this particular method of working with post-traumatic stress is not having to relive the event. That's like horrifying. It's like immersion therapy. You know, it's like keep hitting your hand until it doesn't hurt anymore. You know, and they hand you a hammer. Not a very, I mean, it'll work eventually. Your nervous system will shut down, but you know, God, what a horrible way to have that happen. And what other injuries, what secondary gain is there, or secondary loss is there to that type of training. So anyway, what we want to do is give you an option to remove the trauma without the drama. And that's what today's about. So thing first that's really important is to understand post-traumatic stress, because I've had a lot of people who have family issues, who have just had some shitty things happen to them in their lives. Go, well, you know, I probably shouldn't really say I have PTSD because, you know, I wasn't in the war, and I didn't have somebody blow up in front of me, and I didn't have my best friend's head land in my lap, and all the horrific stories that you hear of people and what they've gone through in war. You know, all I did was, you know, was beaten by my dad. Well, hey, that's traumatic as well. There's no degree. You know, if you think about it, when I'm working with first responders and military, they're trained to deal with this stuff. So yes, it's traumatic. Yes, it's horrific. Yes, it's not right. But an average person who's not trained goes through something like one of my clients had his neighbor OD on heroin, fall off the deck and crack his head open and die on the sidewalk in his backyard. And my friend was one, or my client was one that went to see him and see what was wrong. And he was horrified. He couldn't sleep for weeks. And then he came to me, and we took care of it. But he was one of the ones that said, you know, well, you know, it's not like I, you know, watched the village get shot down. You know, all these extreme examples. Trauma is trauma. Okay. And if it's somebody sneaking up behind you and scaring you I hate people when they hate that people that I don't hate the people. I hate that action, sneaking up on people. I had somebody back in my martial arts days when I was going to college. I had studied Jeet Kune Do, Kung Fu for many years through high school. And this guy thought he was going to play a trick on me one night, and he heard me get up to go to the bathroom. And when I came out of the bathroom, he jumped out, and I stopped my fist about an inch from his nose because I realized who it was, and I was trained, to have control of my limbs. So had it been an intruder, he would have been down. But thank God I recognized him, and I just looked at him, and he's turning white, and I think he might have peed his pants. I'm like, please don't ever do that again. He's like, no problem. So trauma is trauma. He was definitely traumatized by that. I was definitely traumatized by the somebody jumping out at me. So it doesn't have to, a little, what we could consider or reduce to or minimize to a little thing can still cause a neurological imprint on our nervous system that responds to the memory or the reoccurrence of that. Okay, think about this. Someone comes up behind you and says, boo, screams you or scares you from, the other side of the wall, jumps out like this guy did. For sometimes days, maybe weeks even, you feel jumpy, you're untrusting, you're wondering around every corner that you go around, is there someone standing there? For me, it was someone that I knew, so it wasn't as traumatic. But if it would have been a stranger, let's say out in public that just wanted to mess with you, you could continue to be apprehensive and expecting it to happen again around any corner. So every time you come to an intersection, every time you come to a cross a choice point where you're going to make a turn around a building or a structure, your heart rate increases, your blood pressure goes up. That's a traumatic response. And there's a reason for it. Car accident, same thing. You get into the car, your heart starts to race. You are hypervigilant about traffic. You're constantly looking in your rearview mirror because you got rear-ended. Leave extra room in front of you. So all these different ways that our nervous system fires up. And it really takes a toll. Then you get into, very serious, what I would call high-level trauma, where someone attacks you. I've worked with a lot of rape victims, and it's just horrific what these people have had to go through. And then how they have coped with it is just like building everything around that trauma and making sure that it doesn't happen again. They're nervous when they go into public. They have shame. They feel vulnerable. They're constantly in fear. These are all things that are normal for this kind of an occurrence. For me, it was family. We had a very physically violent childhood. The house was not a safe place. And, just out of nowhere, someone would just go off the rails. And so I was always jumpy around people. And I remember, and afraid. And then I felt guilty because as a little kid, you think it's your fault. And man, all that stuff was so frustrating. I wish I would have had the tools that I have now. I wish I would have had when I did my 10 years of therapy. And talk therapy helped. This is just way faster and you don't have to relive it. So I remember I was having dinner with I was out on a date, and we went out to dinner, and we were eating Mexican food. I remember it clearly, and I had my arm around the edge of the plate, and I was leaned into the plate, bent over, shoveling the dinner. And the woman who I had been friends with her for a long time, she's like, stop for just a minute. So I stopped, and she said, don't move, just stop. I'm like, okay. She said, what is that posture? I was completely unconscious of what I was doing. And I'm like, oh my God. She said, what is that about? And I realized that a lot of our family fighting happened around the dinner table. And you got what you got to eat, however much you ate before the explosion occurs is how much you got for dinner. So I learned to eat fast and keep my head down, and go for it, because the shit's going to hit the fan. And when it does, you aren't going to get any more food. So it was really good to become aware of that. And I still catch myself sometimes doing that. But I did some of this visualization work, some of this NLP work on these different traumas that I've experienced. And oh my God, it's so amazing, because the memories are never going to go away. And unless you do electroshock therapy, which is really messed up because it completely fries your brain. So what we want to do, it's not the memory that is the trigger, or the memory is the trigger, but the memory is not the problem. The challenge or the difficulty or the problem is the response, the neurological response to that particular memory. Whether that's you going into convulsions, whether it's you completely shutting down, going into a state of fear, going into a state of panic, not being able to sleep, these sorts of things. And so the thing that this, in NLP, they call it a trauma release process, TRP, not to be confused with tactical resilience process, or whatever 220 calls their thing. They call it TRP as well, but it's a different acronym. In NLP, it's trauma release process. And that's exactly what we do. We release the trauma or the traumatic response to the memory. And it's really, really powerful. So those of you who suffer from post-traumatic stress, and whether you've been diagnosed or not, it doesn't matter. The realization is, if you have been traumatized and you have a negative reaction when you think of that particular episode in your life, you've got post-traumatic stress. And whether it's clinically diagnosed or not, it doesn't matter. The memory is messing with your life. And the thing about that is, we want to help you with this. I want to help you with this. And so we can do it remotely. You don't have to be where I am, because I'm all over the place these days. And but it's very, very easy to do remotely. It's very, very effective. And if you're interested in a wonderful, wonderful healing and a release from the tortures of past trauma, get in touch with me, Toby at tobychristensen.com, and let's talk about it and see if we're a match. And if we are, let's get it taken care of. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. I'm going to continue on this subject for a while, because we're coming into the holiday season of Christmas, and then we're coming into New Year's. And you think New Year's, yeah, great time of celebration. Okay, do you know how many people January 1st go to their first AA meeting, or go to another AA meeting because they've been drinking too much? So there's a lot of freaking trauma around New Year's and Christmas, and I want to help you. So that's it for today. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season, and let's remove the trauma without the drama.